everybody, and welcome to Board Game Breakfast, or lunch, or dinner, not really sure. One of these days I'm going to have to remember not to do a Board Game Breakfast the week after Essen. Essen is an extremely exhausting convention for us, so I said it would be delayed, but it is obviously a lot more delayed than it is normally, and for that I apologize. I would like to say thank you to everybody who came by at Essen and said hi to us, and there were hundreds and hundreds of you, if not thousands, of people who came by the booth. And I want to thank you and I appreciate that. And folks, oh my, there is so much stuff to talk about. So before we get to the news, I will likely do a Q&A this week, although there's a chance that it's already done by the time this airs, just because of timing and all that jazz. And I'm really not sure what else is happening with the Dice Tower this week, because this is kind of a regrouping week, but there is many great things to come. So anyway, let's get to the news. So obviously there was a lot of news that came out last week at the Essen Spiel Fair, and so I'm not going to get to all of it because I haven't even heard all the news yet. They were just announcing news all over the place. But we have some news that we're going to talk about. The first one, and I don't often talk about Kickstarters in this section because I leave that to Suzanne, but this one is a more immediate. This is from Ludi Creations, and they have a Kickstarter called Steal This Game. And the backstory is this. At the Essen Fair we were just at, unfortunately, bad things happen at places like this occasionally, and a few publishers were robbed. Also, R&R Games was also robbed. And so they lost a good chunk of the proceeds that they had gotten at the convention. So they had one of their folks designed a quick game. They put it up on Kickstarter, and so you can back the game and support them helping make up for this loss. So that will help Ludi Creations. Hopefully there's a way to help out R&R Games also. Space Cowboys has announced Unlock. This is a new game from the same designer who did Time Stories. Whew, I'm already interested. It's going to be in the same concept as Time Stories, where there's different modules that you'll be able to plug into the game system. These modules will work with an app. All right, this is getting more and more interesting. And 3 modules come with the base set, and then each expansion will have modules. Essentially, these are escape room scenarios. And I don't know much more than that, but the concept is fascinating, and I'm really excited about that. Speaking of Time Stories, I was able to talk to the designer at Essen, and I'm sure many of you wonder if Time Stories is fading out, but no. The problem that the Time Stories module has been delayed is there's so much art that's in these that they can't pump them out as fast as they want, but there are several more modules that are on the way, so hooray for that. Pandemic Legacy 2. This is looking more and more like it's going to be a GenCon 2017 release. I'm sure everyone's excited about that, and they've shown the boxes here. We see that they're black and yellow, which is the other 2 color diseases after red and blue. There's also was a picture put up on the internet. I'm not going to show it here because I think it's kind of spoilery of a possible board, although that picture was taken down too, so it's the internet though. You can find it if you want. Portal made a whole pile of announcements. They have an expansion for 51st State, the Scavengers. I'm really excited. There's an expansion for Cry Havoc coming called Aftermath. This does not add a new faction. It's just more stuff for existing factions, more cards, more technologies, more buildings. I really do like Cry Havoc, and the Portal booth at Essen was huge. They also have an expansion for Stronghold called Undead. I don't know exactly what's in this one. I know that there's more options for the attacker and defender. I'm assuming since it's called Undead that there might be a new unit or a way to bring back goblins and trolls and stuff after they die. And then a standalone game Portal announced, Alien Artifacts. This is a 4X card game. It's Exterminate, Explore, Expand, and I always forget the other one, Exploit. There we go. Anyhow, a game, and it's supposed to be a card game that takes place in an hour. We'll believe it when we see it, Mr. Portal Games. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping it's great. The box cover looks great and all, but you never know. Hey, also First Martians. That was supposed to be at Essen, but it's been delayed. I am now hearing that GenCon 2017 is where we'll see that game. Hasbro has announced HasCon. This is September 8th to 10th, 2017. This is about their games, and they said something about Magic the Gathering, but also their toys, so it's a mixture of those. Seems like an unfortunate name, HasCon, because if it goes bad, and you just say has been, I don't know, we'll see. Blood Bowl is coming, for sure. Now, this is like the worst kept secret on the internet. Everyone knew that Games Workshop was going to be making Blood Bowl, but they were demoing the game and showing off the game and the miniatures at Essen, and the scuttlebutt is it is coming soon. Soon. When soon? Well, I guess you'll have to wait and find out about that. They haven't announced an exact date yet. But usually when they show these things off, you will see it come out in the next couple months or so. Splatter is reprinting Zimbabwe and Indonesia, so fans of those heavier games will be really proud about that or excited about that. Food Chain Magnet has done exceedingly well for Splatter comparatively, so it's good to see these coming back. And Bezier Games has announced New York Slice. This is actually a re-theming and reworking of one of the best games from Jeffrey Hours, and that's a piece of cake, where you had a cake and then you divide the cake and then you split it. Well, here they just changed the theme to pizza. That really works, so I have to admit, I'm very excited to see this one coming out, which I hear at the beginning of next year. All right, well, that's enough of this news. Let's go over to Suzanne.
Happy breakfast, everybody. If you're like me, you've been watching your social media sites and looking at all the news come out of Essen over the past weekend, and you're listening to Tom talk about it today. But I realized something as I was looking at the games I was interested in, and it's that I've actually already pre-ordered a lot of them because I Kickstarted them. And I thought that was kind of cool because I realized that means I've been spreading my gaming dollars out across the year, and I have to worry less about coming up with a huge budget for games in the next month as I try to snap up the new hotness. It's just kind of food for thought as you think about what kind of value Kickstarter might add to your world as far as how you buy games. That said, there are a lot of fun things on Kickstarter today, so let's take a look. Rising 5, Runes of Astros is a cooperative game that integrates an app. Players take on the roles of members of a team of heroes hired to save the world of Astros. You'll be moving around the board, fighting monsters, and recovering relics. Different characters have different abilities to help you along, but at its core, Rising 5 is a mastermind-style deduction game because you use the app to take photos of the runic layouts, and the app will tell you if the runes are correct and in the right location or not. The game has amazing art by Vincent Dutray, and while the designers may not be household names yet to a lot of gamers, they have quite a combined design pedigree. I know app integration isn't everyone's thing, but the app is already available for you to test out that deduction tech. You can get a copy of Rising 5 for a pledge of €40. Greenbrier Games and Zephyr Workshop are bringing us Aegis, a tactical board and card game inspired by Voltron and other battling robot animation. In Aegis, robots come in 5 different types that represent different ability things like assault and intel. They can work together as a team, but ultimately you can combine your individual robots to create bigger, more powerful bots. Either way, your bots share a pool of energy used to take their actions, so balancing input with output and planning carefully to maximize on your robot's abilities is what makes up the game. Aegis has 2 starter boxes that each stand alone, but they can be combined for a huge variety of robot combos. You can get a single starter for $40, or you can get both sets for $80. Set in a post-apocalyptic Las Vegas taken over by a corporation and its mechanical drones, Armored Syndicate pits 2 players against each other in this tactical miniatures board game. One player plays the corporation, and the other plays the thieving mercenaries in scenario-based or skirmish-based games. In Armored Syndicate, you'll use your income each round to secure aid like airstrikes and sniper support, buy action points for your character, or bank it for endgame points. And then you get to move around the modular board to wall up your opponent. Armored Syndicate features resin minis, future plans to increase the player count, and there are a few pledge levels to choose from, but a pledge of $60 will get you the base game and essential minis with a ton of available add-ons, of course. Skyward is a game that centers around one of my favorite mechanisms for games and for sharing a pie, the good old I cut, you pick, aka control versus opportunity. In Skyward, players are vying for control of a newly built floating city by contributing the most value. Cards represent buildings, which are victory points. There are factions, which are the resources that let you play those buildings. And there are pigeons, otherwise known as rodents of the sky, that just kind of clog up your hand. After cards are drawn, the warden of the round divides the cards any way they want into piles, including the warden token. But then the players get to choose which pile they take. Skyward features lovely art on large format cards, and you can get a copy of the game for a pledge of 25 Australian dollars plus shipping. And UberStacks is a modular gaming accessory designed to help players manage their cards, tiles, and other components. These plastic units can fit together in a wide variety of configurations so that players can set them up comfortably for any game. UberStacks is already in market, but this campaign was created to add 4 new color options to the product line, so you'll be able to select from 10 colors for your pledge. There's a wide variety of pledge options that vary depending on how many units you want, but the basic set of 24 pieces takes a pledge of 30 Canadian dollars plus shipping. Okay, that's all I've got for you this episode. Hopefully something caught your eye. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week.
Hey, this is Mike with the Board Game Makeover. If you've seen any of my previous episodes, you'll know that one of the most common components that I manipulate and give a board game makeover to is the card. Since the card is one of the most common components found in board games, it becomes the easiest to change out the theme or the artwork. So in this week's episode, I'm going to show you my evaluation process of how I went from Dragonwood by Game Right Games to Pokemon Go, the card game. So Dragonwood has 108 cards. Pokemon Go, the card game, has 151 Pokemon plus the trainer cards. So I had to make that decision that I was going to put every Pokemon from the first generation into this card game. First, I had to create a common back for each card. So I created Pokewood, a Dragonwood makeover. Then I had to find an image of every Pokemon from the Pokemon Go first generation monster set. And most of them are on my phone, but not all of them, of course. So I was able to take screenshots of everyone and cut them all out and put them on each of these cards. 151. Here's where the fun begins. Or maybe the fun ends. I took all 151 cards and I created a front and a back. I glued them together, I punched them, and then I put them in a penny sleeve. What does that look like? This is what it looks like. More than 300 4x6 pictures for my card game called Pokemon Go, the card game, after its final edition. Is it a labor of love? Yes. Did I lose sleep? Oh yeah. And then after the cards, I had to think, what am I going to put this in? Well, I found this Risk wooden game at the thrift store, and it has a perfect inlay here, so I created a front picture that fits right in here. Oh, and I didn't tell you this part either, but sometimes I actually start by making small cards. So these are all 300 small cards I made first just to see how the game played before I decided to make the 4x6 cards. So as you can see, the evaluation process must be taken in consideration before you decide to give a board game makeover. There's a lot of components to think of, a lot of cards to think of, and a lot of overall things to consider before giving a board game makeover. Thanks for watching the Board Game Makeover. I will see you next time.
Hi, welcome to the 101. One of my favorite games that I absolutely love to paint, and it is the easiest entry-level game that you will ever get, is All Quiet on the Martian Front. I absolutely love this game. It comes with 3 Martians and a ton of army tanks and all the rules and everything that you need for it. But I was really happy when this game got re-picked up by a company, because they started releasing some new releases like the Red Martian, which I've been waiting for quite some time. As you can see, I painted up. And another one of my favorites that I couldn't wait to get my hands on was the Harvester. Look at this bad boy as he just takes humans and grinds them up into Martian dust, whatever else they do. I really, really love this game. So, in honor of them bringing this game back, if you go to my site, Rob Orrin here on YouTube, I'm going to be giving away one of these $100 starter kits. They also have a giant tank called an Ironclad. I'm going to be giving that away too. All you have to do is check the video out on my YouTube channel, Rob Orrin at YouTube, as simple as that, and there'll be instructions and questions that you have to answer. Answer those questions in the comments or email me at novaprime860@hotmail.com for your chance to win, and next week we will announce the winners of the Ironclad and the base set. Not a bad deal for just answering a couple of questions. Well, until next time, I'm Rob Orrin, and we will see you soon.
Well, unfortunately, I can't really tell you guys as much of what's coming out this week because there's just so, I'm not really quite sure what's going to be happening. We have a lot of games. I'm looking over here. There's a whole huge pile of games to look at. There's a huge pile over here. And there are hundreds of games in the mail winging their way towards us. We do have a lot of games that I've looked at that are coming. And again, I would love to tell you which games are coming out when, but we're really behind schedule due to a lot of the just confusion and jet lag and all that from Essen. But we will get on. Meanwhile, there was a lot of videos that we did during Essen. We did a live show and we posted that on the internet. Now, be warned, when we recorded this, the room was very echoey and it was bouncing all around, which was fine when you were there, but did not record as well as we hoped, but you can still watch that. And Dave Luza did a blog, which we posted on our website. And so we got things that are coming this week. I know Board Game Wonder is coming this week too. So there's a lot of things coming. I'm just not sure exactly what. So just keep an eye on our YouTube channel and dicetower.com to find out about everything there. All right.
Hello, Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise. Welcome to another installment of Questionable Board Game Science. Here's a random thought, or more accurately, a thought about randomness. When a standard deck of playing cards is shuffled, there are over 80,000,000 sextaharva different possible combinations. It's enough to make your mind spin. So, think about that the next time that someone asks you if this is your card. Now, whereas a standard deck of playing cards contains 52 cards, a typical Magic the Gathering deck contains 60 cards, increasing the number of possible combinations exponentially. But even with 20 land cards in a deck, making up roughly 1/3 of its cards, it still seems like I draw no land cards in my initial 7-card hand with odds-defying frequency and lose. But maybe it's just the way that I shuffle and I'm not lucky. Now, if an unbiased computer could shuffle the deck for me, I'm sure that the land distribution in my opening hand would be balanced and fair. Well, when a computerized shuffler did become available in the virtual version of Magic the Gathering Online, many users formed the exact opposite opinion. A Google search will unearth at least 6 pages of complaints and horror stories detailing the unfairness of Magic Online's shuffler. How could the developers of Magic Online allow such a critical component of their software, the shuffler, to perform so poorly? Well, the answer is simple. They didn't. It was us, the users. Even with examples of hypergeometric distribution demonstrating the accurate randomization of Magic Online Shuffler, you wouldn't believe the results. Because as human creatures, we kinda stink at randomization. We have a built-in bias of what all mixed up should look like, and you'd think that that would be the end of it. But fat chance. Our brains are hardwired to find and recognize patterns, even the pattern of a complete lack of a pattern. But do we really believe it? What steps do you take to ensure random elements in the games that you play are truly randomized? And does that approach truly result in random results? Let me know in the comments below, where, as usual, I'll respond with a randomly shuffled string of words.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode with To Die For Games, Board Gaming with Colleagues. Today we're looking at the game Project Dreamscape.
Wake up. Wake up.
Sorry, I didn't get a good sleep last night. I was just daydreaming at my desk
Oh,
during
lunchtime! So today we're looking at the game Project Dreamscape. It plays one to four players in about 30 minutes, and I believe it's for ages 12 and up. It was created by Sarah and Will Reed by Undyne Games.
So the idea behind this game, obviously, is you're in a dreamscape, you're traveling through, and you're trying to create matching symbols along your dreamscape to get the most points by the end of the game.
each card will have 2 different types of dreams on it, and you can choose which one you activate on any given turn when you play the card. So you have 2 basically game mechanics you can choose from. Some of them will allow you to draw more cards, or play with the order of the cards, or possibly affect other players as well. So there's some good thinking involved there as well.
I enjoyed this. At first I was a little worried. Sometimes these card games you're like, oh, it's nothing new. But I really liked the art in this game. I thought it was really pretty and soft, like watercolors almost.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
very big on... they're going to tell you I love sheep. It's got sheep. So it kind of had me at that. But with the
You
actual
had her at
mechanics...
sheep.
had me at sheep. But the
Thematic.
Thematic. But the mechanics in this really appeal to me as well. I
Yeah.
like that puzzling of, okay, I have to play this, and I'm going to move this over here, and try to get the maximum chains of my matching
Right.
symbols. And it had a lot going for it.
And you get negative points if you have too much money in this game.
Yes,
Which is
because
kind of
you want
cool.
some money to buy the cards you want versus having to wait for them to be pulled down, but you
Right.
don't want 5 because that's 5 points that you lose at the end of the game.
That's right.
Yeah. I like how the money were called Z's. You collect Z's in order to buy dreams. You spend Z's to buy dreams. It's kind of funny. No, I really enjoyed the game. Like they said, the artwork was great, and the mechanics work as well. So a nice light game.
Yeah, so overall, I enjoy this, and I definitely think you can play with coworkers. It plays in about 30 minutes. The first time may take a bit longer. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty straightforward. So, yay for me.
Yay for me.
So that's it for now, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
So while this is fresh in my mind, I wanted to talk about Essen versus GenCon. This is a question that's often asked of us, which is better to go to, Essen or GenCon? And I know what the answer is for me, both as someone who's going to a convention and as somebody who has a booth at both of the conventions. Now, just a quick catch-up, if you don't know, GenCon is held in Indianapolis, Indiana, in the United States every year, usually in August. It is called the Best 4 Days in Gaming. It's a 4-day convention, although a lot of stuff goes on Wednesday too, where there is more publishers. It's by far the largest board game convention in America, although it also includes role-playing and collectible card games, and some general nerdery is there. And then Essen Spiel is a fair that's held in the city of Essen, Germany, each year in October usually. And publishers from all over the world come, and it's by far the largest board game-centric convention in the world. There is definitely, I would say like 95% board games. There's some other stuff there, but it's mostly board games. GenCon is about 70% board games, but I'm just making these numbers up, but that's what it feels like to me. Now, which one's bigger? Who cares? It really doesn't matter. GenCon is probably bigger at this point, but it's really hard to tell. But they both give different numbers. Essen's give turnstile counts, so their number's really big, because if you come 4 days, you get counted 4 times. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which one's bigger. They're both extremely crowded. If you do not like crowds, you may not like either convention because the crowds are overwhelming, and both seemingly to me have a very big crowds on Thursday. The most crowded day for both is Saturday. But after that is Thursday, and then Friday, then Sunday. And they are both long, exhausting affairs. Now, comparing the two as a con-goer. So I'm just going to go to a convention. Which one will I go to? Well, my first thing, honestly, would be, which one can I get to for a cheaper price? Really, if I would live in Europe or Russia, most likely I'm going to be heading to Essen because it's just a lot cheaper to get to. Crossing the Atlantic Ocean is an expensive proposition. If I live in the United States or Canada or even South America, I would probably consider going to GenCon first. If you live in Asia, I can't really help you. Or Australia, you're far from everything. And they're both difficult to get to. But I think that's honestly a big deal to look at the costs because to spend thousands of dollars to go to a convention, why are you going? And that brings us to the second reason. How are they different? Essen is primarily a shopping convention as far as I can tell. Yes, I know you can play games there, but it's not quite so easy. The Essen convention is open from 10 a.m. in the morning till 7 p.m. GenCon has an exhibitor hall that is open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., but GenCon never closes. When Essen closes at 7 p.m., everyone goes home. Or they go to hotels, and there is playing at games at the different hotels, but it's scattered all over the place, and finding someone to game with is not quite as simple as GenCon, where there is a huge hall that is just constantly open and there is constantly places to play games there. At GenCon, they will demo games to you very quickly. Here, come try this game out, play a few rounds of it. All right, next. At Essen, people go there and expect to play the entire game. And in fact, at both conventions, when they open the exhibitor halls, people will run in quickly. At GenCon, they're running in because they want to buy games that there's only 100 of or so. And a little bit of that happens at Essen, but people are often running at Essen to be the first to sit down and play games because they'll sit there and play the whole game. There's tons of shows and events and all sorts of spectacle at GenCon. There's very little of that at Essen. Essen is primarily about the games. We did a live show there, but I would say there's maybe 10 events total at the fair while we were there. The food is good at both locations. There's good restaurants nearby. Both of them are going to wear you out. And if I was a con goer and money was not an issue in the sense of which one to go to, that would be a really hard call for me. I might give the edge to GenCon as a goer because I like spectacle. I like to watch a costume parade. I like an auction on the side that GenCon has. I like just the fact that I can wander in at 2 in the morning. I don't, but I could wander in at 2 in the morning and play some games. I like the open gaming room, the Rio Grande board gaming room. I also really do like Essen because there's no question that there are more games released at Essen by a mile. And while GenCon is slowly building up a repertoire of game companies from all over the world, Essen definitely has the game companies from all over the world there. And I want to say, I personally talked to people from maybe 50 different countries, and that's really neat. Essen is just really interesting in that regard. So, as a publisher, that's tough. What audience are you going for? It used to say Euro games were in Essen and Ameritrash games were in the United States, but at GenCon, but that's very mixed up now. In fact, just at this last Essen, looking around, there are so many different games. There are party games, there are children's games, there are heavy European strategy games, there are word games, there are Ameritrash games, there are war games. There's so many different games at both conventions. But as a publisher, you may feel like GenCon still has that Amerithrashy type edge, and that's where you want to launch a game. And there's also that, people will be playing it after hours and stuff. Essen is also a good launch, so I would honestly pick whichever one the date was closer to. I will say price-wise, Essen is cheaper for exhibitors than GenCon is. Essen treats exhibitors with way more respect than GenCon does, and is a much more professional organization to work with. At the same time, GenCon does offer extra things like shows that you can run and different demo areas that you can have that are not at your booth but in another hall, and you can run tournaments that are a lot easier to do at GenCon. So I guess what I'm coming down to say here is don't feel bad if you can go to one and not the other. You're going to have a great time. Now, some of you are going, Vasel, I can't go to either. Okay, well, I'm not trying to make you feel bad about that either because there are many amazing small conventions. I'm sure there's one that's near you somewhere that you can go to. Never feel like you're missing out on these, and hopefully our coverage will show you some fun things because the games will get to you. The great games are coming. There was, 900 some games that were just released at this Essen? There ain't 900 great games, but as the next weeks, months go by, hopefully we'll be able to tell you which ones we found that are amazing and fun, and you'll get a chance to play them and have a fantastic time. We have tons of fans who met us both at GenCon and Essen, and once again I want to say thank you. You made our time there fantastic.
Hi guys. Today the doors of the Spiel will close for the last time this year. And there comes an end to the time we spent with our heads in the cloud. It started 5 days ago with the warm-up day and the press conference. But with every morning that comes, you realize that another day is gone, another balloon has popped, and you circle back closer to the ground. Tomorrow, everything is back to normal. This week I am playing a game that has been hard to miss during the Spiel. They had quite a bit of real estate with its bright colors. This week I am playing Hop. In Hop, each player chooses a character, receives 5 balloons, and up you go. When it is your turn, you choose a skewerer. That person needs to hold up his finger and you try to hurl a rainbow around that finger. The other players take bets on it either succeeding or not. When the rainbow is caught, you level up and you and the skewerer receive a cloud with points. If the other players were right in predicting the outcome, they receive a dove, and 3 doves can be turned in for a cloud with points. If they were wrong, they receive a crow, and 3 crows will pop one of their balloons. Now, what I haven't told you yet is that before the hurler gets to throw, he needs to draw a dare card, giving constraints to either the hurler, the skewerer, maybe put in a turbulator or an assistant, and that mixes up the game in a real fun way. The game is over when someone reaches the highest level in the clouds or loses all of his balloons. Then you add up your level and the points you got with the clouds, and that determines who the winner is. Me and my friends enjoyed playing Hop, although throwing under normal circumstances without constraints can be challenging enough. But we already house ruled it that when a kid is involved, he gets extra chances to get it right. We had fun playing this new Essen release, Hop. My name is Dave Luza. Thanks for watching.
Hey folks, let's fly to the moon with the best and the worst and Airlines Europe from Abacus Spiele, and yeah, let's take a look what I like on it. My favorite part on Airlines Europe is it is exactly Ticket to Ride Plus. So if you are, like I am, a huge fan of Ticket to Ride, you will love Airlines Europe. It's a little bit above Ticket to Ride in every sense. It's a little bit more stock market, it's a little bit more strategic, it's a little bit more pre-planning, it's a little bit more timing, it's a little bit more confrontation, it's everything a little bit more. It's exactly the natural second step after Ticket to Ride. And that is a game I'm looking always for. I'm always looking for an easy accessible game like Ticket to Ride, but there must be more. And this is Airlines Europe for me. The worst thing in this game is, and that is definitely not a mechanic at all, so can you see this cute little beautiful plastic airlines? Great. And then paper money. Take a look at this paper money. That is so horrible. Sorry for that. But this paper money really ruins the whole experience of Airline Europe. Therefore, please, please, please replace that with coins, with whatever you want, but don't play with this paper money if you really want to have the feeling of Airlines Europe. So that was my personal favorite on Airlines Europe from Abacus Spiele, and the thing I don't like on it as well. And I see you next week back here on Dice Tower Board Game Breakfast. See you until then. My name is Niels. Bye bye.
Hi, my name's Dave Adams and welcome. I have spent the last couple of weeks talking about this concept of grokking and how it builds intuitive play. The more we play games, or more specifically, the more we play a particular game, the better we get at it, the more intuitive our gameplay becomes, and in fact, the more enjoyable it becomes. And I think there's really good reasons why that happens. And that's because essentially, I believe, we're building mastery. Now, Daniel Pink puts mastery as one of the 3 main elements to building a satisfying and motivating work life. In fact, he puts it up there with purpose, and autonomy. And I would add that autonomy and mastery have a mutual relationship there. More mastery in a topic leads to more autonomous decision making because we're confident in those decisions. Just like I was with Legendary Encounters, the better I got at it, the more intuitive my play, the more confident I was. Let me use another game as an example, Elder Sign. Now, Elder Sign utilizes a dice rolling mechanic which you would think would leave me entirely beholden to the randomness of the die, except I've gotten to a point where I can win the base game of Elder Sign relatively regularly, and I believe that's in part because of the mastery I've got over the game now. I make better decisions. I know which cards and which rooms to enter into. I know how to utilize my powers better. I know how to utilize my cards better, and I more often than not have a better outcome with the game because of my decision making. Mastery gives me the ability to be more in control of a situation even when there are random factors at play. Now, as mastery helps us to be more at ease with the things occurring in our lives and the decisions that we make, it actually leads, according to Daniel Pink, to a much more satisfying and happier work environment, or whatever environment that we're utilizing mastery in. I want to explore this concept of mastery next week as I continue to unravel some of the learnings that I've taken away from going through with my 10 by 10 challenge. Until next week, I'm Dave Adams. Enjoy your breakfast.
Hey, Chappets. Do you want to see a brand new game which is fresh from France? Well, actually, I had to go to Germany to get them. So maybe this should be called Early Essen Easter Eggs. Yeah, but they are French games. Cut. Let's go to the table. This is 80 Days Around the World from, Purple Brain Creations and some other company you might know. And this is Aladdin by Purple Brain Creations and someone else. Yeah. Let's show you. I haven't even taken the wrapper off of them yet. Ah! Too long. The sorcerer has sent you You know what? Underneath this video, leave a comment saying @Barry and write 80 days if you want to see next week me do 80 days. And do @Barry Aladdin if you'd like to see magic gems and lamps come out of a box. Until then, ciao for now.
Hello, my name's Dan and this is Cora, and we're here to talk to you about games for children of around 5 and under. Today we're going to talk about this disgusting game. What's this game called, Cora?
Seagull Splat.
Seagull Splat. Ugh. Let's see how it plays. In Seagull Splat, you play a family of holiday makers who've gone to the beach for a bit of sunbathing. Unfortunately, there's a rather poorly seagull flying around that's possibly eaten something it shouldn't. Players take it in turns to spin a spinner, and whichever colour comes up is the one that's going to be paid a visit by the seagull. Sometimes the gull will just fly overhead with no ill effects. However, sometimes you aren't so lucky, and your poor sunbather will get splattered with sloppy ploppy seagull poop. This is a very basic game with very few decisions to be made at all, and if it weren't for the delightfully disgusting novelty of the seagull poop, there'd be little to recommend it. However, as it stands, it really appeals to Cora and my infantile sense of humour, and so it's one that I'm happy to have on my shelves. So Cora, what do you think of Seagull Splat?
I think it's good.
You think it's good? What do you like about it?
I think the bit that's funny is that it goes with bubble mixture. It's only bubble mixture.
It's only bubble mixture. It's not real seagull poo, is it?
No.
No, you're fine. Don't worry, it's all hygienic. So, Seagull Splat. It's a really good game, especially if you like toilet humour. And let's face it, who doesn't like toilet humour? 2 thumbs up.
Once in a generation, a game comes along that captures the hearts and minds of the people. It might be a good game, might be a mediocre game, it might be a great game, but it's not about the quality of the game. It's about the fact that it captures the zeitgeist of its time. The 80s gave us Trivial Pursuit. The 90s introduced the world to Catan. Now, the 21st century has had a lot of good games. Carcassonne, Ticket to Ride, Dominion, Pandemic, but without a doubt, the king for grabbing people's attention, well, that game is Cards Against Humanity. The game is not without its detractors, but you cannot argue with the success that Cards Against Humanity has found. Its co-creators are all multi-millionaires. The game is played by millions of people around the world in board game cafes, in dorm rooms and college campuses, even at family gatherings. So many people are playing this game that there are people who have only played Cards Against Humanity. And it has inspired many imitators, from Personally Incorrect to Despicable Friends and Super Fight, or even Crabs Adjust Humidity. I haven't lost my mind, that's an actual product. You may have friends, or if you run a board game cafe, you may have customers who are always taking Cards Against Humanity off the shelf and nothing else. And you may be at a loss for how to get these people to broaden their gaming horizons and try something new. Try a judging game. That's what Cards Against Humanity is. Players play cards, the judge judges them. So there are a number of other judging games out there, from Snake Oil to Schmovie to Fun Employed and Say Anything. Another thing to try would be games that leave the raunch control in the hands of the players. Cards Against Humanity is pretty much all filth all the time, and that's not quite what everyone is looking for. So try something like the Game of Things. Players are required to come up with their own answers to this, so they control just how nasty they want to get. And if they want to get really nasty, they can try the Game of Nasty Things. Same game, raunchier questions. Now, one thing that these games require that Cards Against Humanity does not is creativity. You are writing the answers. So if you're looking for a game that leaves the creativity to the game itself, there are some alternatives as well. Hasbro's Funny or Die card game, based off the website of the same name, asks you to match captions to funny pictures, and the combination that gets the most votes wins the pot. Do you have a favorite replacement for Cards Against Humanity? Maybe you've got another game that you'd like us to use as our jumping off point for the next After Blank video. If so, tweet us at Snakes and Lattes or post it in the comments below. As always, you can send your questions to asksnakes@snakesandlattes.com.
One Christmas in 1988, I had to single-handedly take down a group of highly organised criminals as they planned a heist on a Los Angeles skyscraper. Wait, no, that's the plot. That's the plot to Die Hard. But now that I have your attention, I spend an inordinate amount of time looking at board game related media. Top 10s, top 20s, top 100s. I did a top 200 once. That was probably too much. And so it occurred to me recently that I spend more time researching and exploring games online than I do actually playing games in the real world. Whoa. My internet history looks like a mix between a board game library and that weird part of YouTube. You know, that place that's about 3 clicks away from a TED Talk on social anxiety, where everything starts to get a bit reptile-y. So I thought maybe I should spend more time seeking out new life and new gaming situations to boldly go where I also have a Star Trek problem. That and Survivor TV. Look, I don't need this. So from now, I'm going to make a concerted effort to get from behind my computer screen like a pale... I can't think of a reference that doesn't involve Star Trek. Should I be out in the real world with all that gross daylight and ducks. So let me know what you think, because there's a good chance I'm going around this whole board gaming thing completely wrong. No.
And that's about it for this episode. I know there was not much of me in this episode, which I'm sure many people would say is a good thing, but I need to start editing this sucker so we can get this up at, before the week's over anyway. So we'll be back to normal next week, regular board game breakfast, and you'll see reviews and things. The year is essentially over convention-wise. We still have Board Game Geek Con, which is coming up in November, and we have the Dice Tower Cruise, which is coming in December, but both of those are more fun events. There's not a whole lot of announcements and stuff. So for the next month, you're going to see us just full-fledged bore into reviews. We still have a couple more top 100 lists that are coming your way, and the end of the year, all that stuff is coming your way. But for now, just have a great time playing some games. There's so many out there right now, you'll never be able to play them all. It's impossible. So pick some that are fun and have a great time. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. I'll see you later.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.